Hey guys, how we doing? So lesson 22, we're going to transition away from trigonometry and begin talking about exponents and logarithms. We're going to start with exponents for a few days, just get back to being comfortable working with exponents, and then we'll get into logarithms. Anybody know what's behind me today? If you don't know, that is Niagara Falls, another one of my favorite places to go to. This is actually the view of the American Falls. There's two sets of falls. There's the American Falls and the Canadian Falls. I happen to think the Canadian Falls are a little bit nicer, but who cares? This small little fall right here off to the side is called the Bridal Veil Falls, in case you were wondering. And if you notice on the American side here, there's a bunch of rocks that have fallen over the years. And they say that if this continues for the next 1,000 years or so, those falls eventually will just become like almost like a creek just flowing down instead of falls because of corrosion. But anyways, enough about Niagara Falls. So we're going to talk just quickly about three basic laws of exponents that you should already know from previous work. So let's just quickly talk about the multiplication. Law of exponents. So if I take two exponents that have the same base, like for example, if I have x to the second and I multiply it with x to the fourth, the bases have to be the same for this to work. If I multiply those two together, I end up with x to the sixth power, because the rule is I add my exponents. If you want to see why that is, x squared is really x times x, and x to the fourth is really x times itself 4 times, for a grand total of multiplying x by itself 6 times. All right, so that's the reason it works. Now, if you throw numbers out in front, like if you put a 2 here and a 3 here, all that does is just you end up just multiplying your numbers as well. 2 times 3 is 6, so you get 6x to the sixth. So that's how it works with multiplication. All right, let me show you the division law real quick. So the division law works by, if you have, say, x to the seventh divided by x to the third, the rule there is you subtract your exponents. So x to the seventh divided by x to the third, 7 minus 3 is 4, so I would get x to the fourth. And the reason that works is because x to the seventh is really x times itself, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times, and x to the third is really x times itself 3 times. And what happens is several of these x's reduce out. And when you're done, you're left with x to the fourth in the numerator. Technically it's over 1. You don't have to write that if you don't want to. So that's how the division rule of exponents works. Let me just mention though real quick that if the bottom number, say, is a 6 and the top's a 2, if you subtract those, you would get x to the negative fourth. It's not that we should avoid negative exponents. There's nothing wrong with them. We're going to talk about them in the next lesson. But to keep it easier, instead of using a negative exponent here, because 2 minus 6 is obviously negative 4, if you use the concept that I just showed you previously, x squared is x times x. X to the sixth is x times itself 6 times. These x's would reduce out, these would reduce out, there's a 1 left in the numerator, and there's 4 x's on the bottom being multiplied for a grand total of x to the fourth. So this would be 1 over x to the fourth power. All right, so that's how that works. I like the answer written better like that rather than writing x to the negative fourth power. We're going to talk more about negative exponents in lesson 23. All right, the last exponent law. All right, that's going to be your power to power law. So if you have something like x squared and you want to raise it to the third power, so a power raised to a power. The rule here is you just multiply these two together. 2 times 3 is 6, so you get x to the sixth power. Now the reason that rule works is because you're taking x squared and you are raising it to the third power, which means you're multiplying it by itself 3 times. So if you go back to our previous multiplication rule, the rule is you add your exponents, they all add up to 6, so x to the 6th power. Now, if you have a number in front of that x right there, like maybe there's a 4 there, all right, what that means is the 4 has to get raised to the 3rd power as well. Everything's getting raised to the 3rd. So what is 4 to the 3rd power? 4 times 4 is 16, times 4 is 64. So this would be 64 x to the 6th power is how that would work. Another way to think of it is you have 4x squared being multiplied by itself 3 times because it's being raised to the 3rd power, multiply, 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 and you get 64x to the 6th. So those are your 3 basic exponent laws. We're going to get into negative exponents, fractional exponents, and zero exponents in our next lesson. But for now, just keeping it simple. Got a few quick homework problems for you to try. All right, and please go visit Niagara Falls. It's amazing. It's an amazing place. If you've never been there, do you know that they take the water from Niagara Falls, from the Niagara River, and they use this giant drop here to produce power? They have a power company there, and it's not the falls themselves, but what they do is they take the water from the upper part of the river, send it down through tunnels, and it turns these turbines. They use the natural gravity of the water to turn these turbines and produce power for a majority of the city of Niagara Falls. See, don't tell me I never taught you anything. All right. Okay. Have a great day.